This is the Field of 68. I'm Vince Wolfram.
I'm JoJo CAVANAGH in Auburn, Alabama. And this
is Straight Out the Jungle. Welcome back to Straight Out the Jungle. My name is Vince Wolfram.
And I'm JoJo CAVANAGH.
And Miles Kelly sunk a go-ahead three-pointer with 30 seconds left to go along with Johni Broome, 16-point, 13 rebound, return to the lineup as number one Auburn extended its winning streak to 11 straight games with a 53-51 dogfight win over number 6 Tennessee on Saturday night. And JoJo, the jungle was the craziest I'd ever seen it. I'll start with that. It was the most bizarre environment I had been a part of at Auburn.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, we had college game day in the morning and we both were there, and it was 9 a.m. and it was packed. I mean, the team couldn't believe it. It was like Tahad, Miles, Janai, Chad. They were all sitting and they couldn't even believe. I think it was Turtle that posted. He was like, the game's at 7:30, and he just posted the crowd. Like, it was absolutely insane. But then that even transcended to later on that night, which there were certain points, but I think once we'll talk about obviously the Miles Kelly three, but you just hear the crowd go crazy as soon as it goes in. And that was just how loud it was the entire game during crucial moments. So shout out to the jungle because it was awesome.
Yeah, the crowd pops were certainly one of one. And for game day to come too, and increase their win streak to 1 after the last couple of years where they've come. Auburn's ended up on the losing side of things. So it was good to see Reese and the crew come back and get back into the win column. And as crazy as a game as it was, game day was probably the least exciting part because this game was a dogfight the entire way. I know Auburn and Tennessee didn't have their best games on offense, and that started in the first half.
Yeah, it was an atrocious start for both teams. Miles Kelly started 0 for 5, Tahad started 0 for 5, Denver started 0 for 5, and Chad started 0 for 4. And we always talk about how deep Auburn's guard play is, just that these guys are all incredible shooters. This is the first game where just not even one of them could step up. And this is this is the worst first half we've seen from all of these guys, which is why I think everyone was so shocked. But thankfully, Tennessee didn't start off great either. Chaz Lanier, who's Tennessee's leading scorer, started off 1 for 5. Zakai at one point was 0 for 5, ended the first half 2 for 6. So we are just lucky that it was a dogfight defensive battle in the first half because Auburn's guards just could not get the ball in the basket. And then Zakai Ziegler and Chaz Lanier couldn't either. So to put it in perspective, Tennessee, after the first half, was 7 for 25. So they were shooting 28%. They were 0 for 11 from the three-point line. Auburn, 7 for 32, shooting nearly 22%, and was 1 for 10 from the three-point line at 10%. But you're like, if all of those guards, were 0 for 5 or 0 for 4, who shot that three? Johni Broome. So to have only 1 3 shot by your big, Johni Broome, is insanity in itself. And Auburn only had 12 points in the paint in the first half. Chaney Johnson, Johni Broome, Dylan Cardwell. Those are the only 3 players that had points from the floor during the game in the first half. So just all of those guards just not being able to shoot in the first half just shows Tennessee's defensiveness. Just both teams in general just did not have great shooting nights. And we're just lucky Tennessee just didn't come in and be able to shoot lights out from the 3. But the first 15 minutes of the game, no Tennessee player had more than 2 points. So, and in the first half, we ended up losing the rebound battle 21-20. So just the first half was not the best for Auburn Tigers. We were lucky, obviously, we end up with a win, but and I'm a podcaster, I'm a student, I'm not by any means a basketball analyst, but I'm going to admit when I'm wrong when I said that I didn't think Denver Jones, I didn't think Chad Baker-Mazara, or who else did I say? Chaney Johnson. Chaney Johnson didn't end up showing up. He was second leading scorer with 10 points, but I said I didn't think Denver Jones and Chad Baker-Mazara had it in them to have 2 bad games in a row, and unfortunately they did. So we're hoping that changes, but yeah, it was not pretty from either teams for the first half, and everyone in Neville Arena felt it. Everyone watching TV, no one could believe that these two who were both number one for so long how low scoring it was. It was just not pretty in the first half.
Yeah, such a slow first half. And a stat that you said that jumped off the page, the rebounding battle was almost the halftime score. You said
Yep.
Auburn had 20 rebounds, Tennessee had 21. The halftime score was literally 22-20. That's absurd. This
That
game,
actually
it
is
felt
crazy.
like it was nose to nose the entire first half. Auburn was giving the Volunteers their best shot defensively. Volunteers were giving it back as well, and they were giving each other problems all night, as well as the ball not going in the basket being a problem enough. But no, certainly. And Bruce even said in his postgame, a game where Denver doesn't score in the first half and Chad doesn't score in the first half. He didn't even mention like Tahad or the other guys who also weren't able to put points in the column. He said, if I saw that before the game, there's no shot I would have thought we won that game. No
Hmm.
way. They didn't score not only in the first half, too. A couple of those guys didn't even make a field goal all game. And to hear that from your coach, like these guys didn't score, I don't think there's any way we could win a game, right? Those are a few of our biggest, most important players. To see that happen is a scary thing. And I guess you're lucky too that Tennessee wasn't making shots like we know that they're capable of. They had a Florida type game
Hmm.
where they just couldn't really find it offensively, and Auburn did too. But in the end, Auburn was able to find some buckets. But goodness gracious, that first half, you were clawing for points, clawing for opportunities to get to the basket and get to the cup and score. But it was something. You were just waiting for the scoreboard to increase, and it really never did.
Yeah, no, Chad Baker Mazar ended up having 7 points, but he was just perfect from the free throw line. So Chad Baker Mazar didn't make a bucket from the court all game, which is not like Chad Baker Mazar. It's not like Denver Jones to have 4 turnovers. Denver Jones went how many games, how many minutes without even fouling someone. So just all of these things, it was like all of these bad things happening in the same game to all these different guys. So, in a way, everyone always says teams need losses to kind of look and see how they can improve. Auburn did not play great in the first half. So it's a perfect opportunity for the team to watch this tape. And we're lucky it wasn't a loss, but to just kind of fix all of these things that went wrong before having 2 games in a row on the road.
Yeah, and it certainly I think was a gelling point too, because they had a certain guy that came back that had a pretty big impact. And even at less than 100%, Johni Broome showed just how valuable he is to the Tigers offense with his performance on Saturday night. The big 6'10", 240, he showed up, and the player of the year candidate, ladies and gentlemen, he's back. And he was back in action for the first time, as Auburn fans know, since suffering that injury against South Carolina, which Coach Pearl called a significant sprain, and 2 weeks later, he's did the Aaron Rodgers treatment, and now he's back and was in the lineup last night. In the first half, he saved Auburn. I mean, they couldn't hit a barn if they tried, and there was Johni Broome, similar to how like you said earlier, he stepped in, he made a difference in the paint. He kept getting buckets that went to that lefty hook, hit a three. He had 9 points while he was 4 for 10 shooting in the first half, which 40% isn't great, but when you're shooting close to zero, you'll take 4 out of 10 from a guy who's coming back from his 2 weeks off, basically. 9 points, 4 for 10 shooting, he hit 1 3, played 15 minutes, and that was impressive to me. I thought he would play more limited minutes in that first half, but he was out for the first 5, and when he came in, he never came back out. And I was talking to an assistant coach pregame, and I said, I think it's probably one of those things for Johni where like a broken ankle, or not a broken ankle, a sprained ankle, it hurts. It does. That's just the name of the game with a broken ankle. But the amount of energy in the jungle, the amount of energy in Neville Arena last night, it can fill you up with so much juice. And it did, I think, for Janai. It gave him so much extra enthusiasm, and just it helped him find that second wind with an injury and not having practiced fully until close to Thursday and Friday of this week. To give him that little extra boost, I think is helpful. Wow. After the game, I'm sure that leg is hurting. I think it's just going to be one of those things where he's hopefully today has it up and icing. That's my hope for him. But regardless, I thought he looked a lot better than I expected it and really came out on fire in
The
that
team
first
was out celebrating after, so Janai Broome didn't
half.
really
Yeah.
rest up after the game. So he might be in pain today, but they deserve to celebrate after that win. But yeah, 16 points, 13 rebounds, 4 blocks, 2 assists from someone who hasn't played in 2 games. Like, I just don't get how you don't think this is the best player in the country. If Janai Broome, plain and simple, wasn't in this game, Auburn would have lost because I just found myself saying the entire game, give it to Johni Broome, give it to Chaney Johnson in the paint because the shots from three were not working. Just the shots from the guards were not working. We needed those bigs to step up, and Johni and Chaney did. But to come back from a sprained ankle injury, your team had won without you. And, kind of there is this idea that, okay, maybe, but like there is this idea floating around that these guys were like, oh, Janai's coming back, we can settle back, which I don't think that's these guys' mentalities. I don't think that's true. I saw that floating on Twitter. I just don't think that's how these guys roll. But we're just lucky that Johni Broome came back. Bruce Pearl said something funny in his presser, though. He was like, yeah, Johni had a triple double. And everyone looks at the stat sheet, all the media people. People are, what? No, he didn't. He's like, yeah, he 16 points, 13 rebounds, and missed 12 shots. So that was kind of funny, but just showed how many shots he missed and still ended up with 16 points. And Rick Barnes also spoke to the media, asked, if he prepared for Johni Broome. And he said, of course I prepared for Johni Broome. We prepared like he was going to play. And me personally, coming into this game, I wasn't sure if, obviously you want Johni Broome to play, but you want him to play when he's 100%. You look at if he plays, he could injure himself further. If he plays, is he going to be the Johni Broome we know? Well, no worry. He was the Johni Broome that we know. So that worked out for the best. But there were just multiple times in the basket, two defenders on him, and it was just a bucket. And just unreal to come back from injury and to lead your team to victory like he did.
Yeah, and I was talking to Reese Davis pregame, and we were both talking about what do you think the pull is to get? Do you bring Janai back now? Do you wait until he gets perfectly healthy and is feels 100% and ready to go? Is that a risk worth taking? And we both said, I think you should wait until he's 100 because if you lose this game, well, first of all, you've been winning without it. Mm-hmm. Second, if you lose this game, it's not the end of the world. Like you've got a lot of chances to prove yourself against ranked teams. And sure enough, whether he was 100% or not, I don't know because he's a bold-legged ankle walker. So I don't really know. But regardless, he looked like he was nearing that 90 to 100% ratio. And I guess I only talked about the first half because that's what we were talking about, that horrible first half for a national TV watcher on ESPN. But the second half, the first half, he made his impact offensively. They needed the points. Second half, he made his impact defensively and on the glass. Janai in the second half, 11 rebounds, scored 7 more points, finished 7 for 19 from the field, 16 points and 13 boards as his final stat line. Remember what I said? I said on the field of 68 after dark, which we were on there, which was pretty sweet. We'll link that video in the description of this one. But I said, win the boards, you win the game. Auburn out rebounded Tennessee 41-37. Without Johni Broome, they do not do that. I can say that confidently. I don't think if they're without Johni Broome, those 13 rebounds he had, those 11 in the second half, that is a game changer. He had those 2 in the final 2 possessions that really, really lifted Auburn to the confidence they needed to go and win the basketball game. And of course, at the end of the game, he dishes to number 13 for the game-winning 3. So Johni making his impact as he did before in so many different ways. And safe to say, I missed Johni Broome on the floor. I really did. It was great to have him back.
Yeah, we won 2 games without him, but just there's nothing like watching a National Player of the Year candidate on the floor in Neville Arena. The jungle loved it. Everyone loved it. But I think Tennessee fans made a mistake when they put their logo on Janai's car and then put he said he thought it was from like Walmart or something, like a T in his backyard. I think they made a mistake because if there was any chance he wasn't playing, that just solidified that he was playing. I don't think like that tactics or whatever. Johni Broome is, he has the dog in him or whatever you want to say. Like that just probably was like, okay, I'm going to play and I'm going to get a double-double now. So I think Tennessee fans made a mistake there.
Yeah, I agree. One thing you do not want to do with Johni Broome, do not poke the bear. In Tennessee, they poked the bear and they paid the price. That's for sure.
Johni Broome had 16 points. Second leading scorer was Chaney Johnson. And like I said, in the first half, it was the big show. The only players to score from the floor were Chaney Johnson, Johni Broome, and Dylan Cardwell. And Chaney Johnson, I found myself in this game, give it to Johni Broome in the paint, give it to Chaney Johnson in the paint. There were so many knock threes. There were so many shots that were just getting missed that I just wanted these guys to have the ball. In the end, obviously, Miles Kelly saves the day. So we obviously wanted him to have the ball. But just throughout the game, I found myself saying, give it to Chaney. He ended with 10 points, 4 rebounds, a block, and a steal. And I mentioned the other stat lines in the first half. All those guys were 0 for 5, 0 for 4. Chaney was perfect from the floor in the first half with 4 points. So just him stepping up when your team isn't shooting great, whenever he had the ball, he was able to make a basket, which was huge because it was such a low scoring game. But Bruce Pearl said something that I did really like, and I am excited for and hope it happens. Talking about Chaney, just the impact that he had on this game. And he said, just wait till Chaney starts shooting threes. He goes, I know it's going to happen. He goes, we need it to happen going further into SEC play. That's something that needs to happen. But if Chaney Johnson can shoot threes, that changes, I think, the ceiling of this team even more. If we can find him open for him to get threes, that is massive for Auburn. But then defensively, too, he had a block. And there was also a crucial moment where Chaney's defense led to a defensive backcourt violation for Tennessee during a crucial moment in the game. So if your MVP is Johni Broome, Miles Kelly, but if the underdog MVP has to go to Chaney Johnson for this game.
Yeah, strong gang vice president certainly made his impact felt on a lot of different levels. I thought in the second half, his biggest impact, similar to Janai, was on defense. You look at Tennessee, they're guys who make the biggest impact on their front court. You look at Militic, you look at Meshack, you look at Okpara, three guys with negative plus minus in the second half. They had 4, 3, and 2 rebounds, respectively, in the second half. That's because Chaney Johnson is fighting them to the death to get rebounds, get stops, and force them out of the paint. That's what I noticed he was doing a lot of. Is boxing out's important, and it's not something that people think about a lot of times. They think ball comes off the rim, it goes where it goes, and whoever's there gets it. It's not really how it is. You have to think like these guys are putting their tails into dudes and trying to get these rebounds when they come off the net. And that's something I've noticed that Chaney, I think, has put more of an emphasis on, because Janai, he's not the bounciest guy in the world, but he's strong. He has a natural weight to him that helps him get those rebounds. He can put a shoulder, he can put a hip into somebody, and that gives him enough space. Chaney is strong as a bull. And when he gets in there and he can really boss around people, and I think he's realizing that over the summer, that weight that he's built up and that extra strength that he's added, he's finding a way to use it. And that's such a cool thing to see grow and to see it happen in a game like Tennessee, where the ball is coming off the rim every single play because nobody is making shots. Somebody's got to go get these rebounds. Chaney Johnson was fighting. Put him in the ring with these guys, and I think it's going to be a 3-round fight. But Chaney Johnson, that's what impressed me the most, is his ability to box out, go chase rebounds, and chase rebounders off, I think was the most impressive for me.
Yeah, like I said, he was perfect from the floor in the first half. Second half ended up having 6 points, but Tahad Pettiford ended up coming out in the second half. He had 0 points in the first half, did not look like the 5-star McDonald's All-American that we all know. He looked like he was a freshman. But then when it mattered in the second half, leading scorer for Auburn with 8 points.
Yeah, he was my toast last night on After Dark. He and Zakai Ziegler. That was a matchup we had talked about because Ziegler being a Long Island guy and me being a Tahad guy. I wanted to see what happened in that one. But the dogfight between those two, it lived up to every expectation I had for it. The Northeast style of basketball on full exact display.
My favorite.
Yes, Tahad, I mean, first half, I mean, you said it already. He came in with a full head of steam, but had no sign of a steamer. He was 0 for 5. He wasn't able to put the ball in the basket, but on defense, he was fantastic. 3 steals in the first half. He was trying to get under the skin of the guards in bright orange yesterday, and I think it worked. I was a little surprised because that's something he comes out of the game because Denver comes in and plays defense. And I don't know that it was Denver playing bad on defense more as it was Tahad taking advantage of the opportunity and trying to get under a guy's skin like Ziegler. I think he was causing him he was forcing him east-west. We know Ziegler wants to get to the basket and score, or get to the basket and dish and find Chaz Lanier or find Gainey and find their shooters, find their ball players. And I think Tahad was really, really working to push him off the mark in that sense. And the second half, he found the steamer. All of his points came in the second half, and they came at very key moments. A moment that I recognized a switch in the energy in Neville Arena, the switch in the energy in the players as well, came at the 2-minute mark. Auburn finished the game on a 6-0 run. And at 2:07, when Tahad Pettiford checked in for Denver Jones, I think that is when it really kicked off. Tahad checks in, gets a very important floater bucket with about 1:45 to go, 1:46. We're down 2 at that point. It's 51-49. that's an energy booster though. How Tahad plays, how he got the ball. He literally came in. They played defense for one play, not even. And he came in, went and got a bucket. It's like he checked in, coach said score, and he said, yes, sir. That's what happened. And he got in and made it happen. And after Miles's three, Auburn's leading. We need Tahad's clutch gene to come forth. Wow, the first free throw, it didn't. And it did make me a little bit nervous. He sunk the second one, and the confidence was exuding. You felt like Auburn was going to be able to get a stop. But I thought that moment, that down the stretch moment, is key. We've talked about his ability to play in the big games. And while offensively he didn't play like he did against Houston in the first half, gosh, he still finds a way to make an impact every single time he's on the floor.
I think the point for me was where he made his first bucket of the game was a layup, and then just right after that, he had another bucket. So it kind of was like, okay, you kind of knew Tahad is now here. Tahad is ready on the offensive side. Because on the defensive side, like you said, we saw it in the first half, we saw it in the second half. So it was great to see him get going in the second half, because ultimately he was the one that provided the spark that led to Auburn sealing this win.
Yeah, and I think too the two-headed snake of Denver Jones and Tahad Pettiford is one that people sleep on, because Bruce has talked about, and you probably see it in early game film. Tahad wasn't the defender 10 games ago that he is now. He's a completely different defender. There's an ego to him now as a defender where I don't know that you want to battle with the guy, because one, when that person's on defense, you're guarding Tahad, you're going to get burned. And second, now Tahad has the defensive ability, prowess, and confidence to take it from that offensive player too. So that's a scary matchup for any SEC opposing guard. And credit to Denver Jones too. Trying to lock up a guy like Ziegler is not easy. Not a lot of teams have done it. And when I say lock up Ziegler, I don't mean keep him from scoring the basketball, more as I mean keep him from driving the lane, keep him from finding his guys. Auburn really, really did that last night. That's something that those two players, I know Denver didn't have the offensive game that he would have liked, which is okay. Because when it comes to locking down offensive guards, Zakai Ziegler is one of the best, if not the best, in the entire country. He and Denver Jones both. But the confidence of those two guys on defense should absolutely be a positive talking point for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are going to hone in on Denver Jones' offensive performance. He was 0 for 8, had 4 turnovers, but it should not go unnoticed that we don't win this game without Denver Jones's defense. We don't win this game without Tahad Pettiford's defense, because Zakai Ziegler, like I said, he's one of my favorite players in college basketball. And in the first half, he didn't look like the Zakai Ziegler we usually know. We saw him at the end of the first half, and then the second half, he kind of like came alive a little bit, but it should not go unnoticed that we don't win this game without either of those guys' defense.
Yeah, and I hope the Auburn faithful doesn't turn that on Denver Jones either. The guy, I know that he struggled against Duke, he struggled against Tennessee, he struggled in some SEC games too, but I also think there is a learning curve there. He's played SEC basketball, but he's never been the one. He's never been the point guard. And he is that now, and he is learning. And you can't discredit the fact that he's the 5th leading scorer on this team. You can't discredit the fact that he's the starting point guard just because he had a bad game. The guy still averages 10 points, almost 3 assists, a steal, and almost a block a game. So to discredit Denver, I think, is just not even worth a thought, realistically. He's had a couple bad games, so has everybody else. We just have enough players to step up and to cover those up. So a defensive performance from Denver, I thought he was 110% one of our top defenders last night, and was a really, really key piece to the victory that we got on Saturday night.
I agree. I was wrong. I thought Tennessee would be Denver Jones' comeback game. I'm not going to say when I think it will be, because I don't want to be wrong again, because I hate being wrong. But I just know I will be excited when that Denver Jones comeback game comes, because it is going to be so good. I just know it. I feel it. Auburn fans want it. I know he wants it so bad. So I'm excited for the Denver Jones comeback game, because it's going to be, I know he's going to shoot a couple of threes and Auburn fans will be like, okay, he's back.
Yeah, and a Denver Jones comeback game is a certain feeling. There was a certain feeling, though, with less than a minute on the clock yesterday, that I think every Auburn fan in Neville Arena, all 9,000 plus, would absolutely sign up and stand in that line for as many hours as they did to feel that feeling again.
Yeah. Miles Kelly did not have the best offensive performance in the first half. We talked about this already. He did, however, everyone's going to talk about the game-winning three. He had a highlight block that was on SportsCenter top 10.
Yep.
So that block was crazy in itself. That was in the first few minutes of the game. So, wasn't shooting the ball great in the first half, but did make a defensive impact. But then the second half, when we needed it most. So I found myself during the game saying, I was like, why do we still why are we taking these threes? Why is Bruce letting them keep taking these threes when Chaney Johnson is playing great in the paint? You have Johni in the paint. And Bruce spoke on After Dark after because Jeff Goodman asked him this question, and Bruce, plain and simple, said, did you think, I'm holding the mic because Bruce was holding the mic. He was like, did you think those buckets could go in the basket? And Rob and Jeff said yes. And he said, that's why I let them keep shooting it. And honestly, once he said that, I was like, I'm not mad anymore. Because at first I was like, why are we still shooting these threes? We're not having the best nights. Sometimes it's not your night shooting three. Usually Tahad and Miles are lights out shooting three. And after he said that, I was like, okay, because we won this game on a three. So if Bruce Pearl had locked down them shooting threes, who knows if Janai would have passed that ball to Miles? That's a huge question. So I agree with that. I was mad at first, and now I'm like, I totally understand because yes, I thought those shots would go in too. But 6 points for Miles Kelly. He had 1 3 that kind of provided a spark in the second half, and then that game-winning three. He talked about it in the media room. He kind of was saying how Janai missed a layup, then saw Miles was open, passed it to him. And as he said, as soon as it left my hands, I knew it was good. He said he lives for moments like that. You can see all the pictures are insane. His face, the bench's face, the pop of that ball in the basket, and then the crowd the jungle going absolutely nuts. And he was in foul trouble. 3 in the second half. He ended up with 4, but that just one play. It's his birthday today too, so happy birthday, Miles Kelly. But that was a early birthday bucket because that was one of my favorite moments I've had in Neville Arena because everyone you saw the crowd just stand up and go crazy. Like, it was awesome.
Yeah, I'll play the pop after this because it's something that I know everybody else wants to feel that again too. But it was the moment when Janai missed that you'll hear it in this audio too. Janai misses and you hear, oh.
Yep.
And then
down.
when he gets the ball back, it's because they see he's already sort of moving in the direction of dishing it to Miles, and then the pop itself. So I'm going to play that now. Auburn faithful, enjoy this one. How about that? I mean, you can't beat it. You really just can't. Yeah, seriously, chills. Everyone in the arena had I know their hairs on their arms were standing up, as were mine, as I sat there trying to hold still with a camera, shooting that video right there. Tough task, I know, probably toughest task of the night. But I think there's a trust factor in Bruce. You bring up that story he told Field of 68's Jeff Goodman, and I think it's so true. And it speaks volumes about not only Bruce's trust in his players and what they're doing, but also his trust in a senior, in a transfer, and a guy he knows is big in the big moments. You talked about foul trouble. If it was Dylan, he'd be out of the game. If it was Chaney, he might be out of the game. Miles Kelly's playing with 4 fouls. He played the most minutes on Auburn's roster last night with 34. Bruce even told us preseason, there probably won't be a game where he plays over 30 minutes. Well, guess what, Bruce? How about that? 34 out of the 40 minutes, Miles Kelly was in the game and was producing for the Tigers. And the trust, too, to give the ball to Miles. Auburn is shooting less than 15% from 3 the moment Miles Kelly catches that basketball. 15%. Imagine getting a 15% on a test. That means you barely studied. You didn't even look at the information. Well, Miles Kelly looked at the information just enough because he hit it and he upped the score a little bit there. But the trust from coach to player, from player to player, from Janai passing the ball to Miles, and then for Miles to hit it, that doesn't shock me one bit. This guy makes 25, 33s in a minute. That's his goal every day of practice. So to get it from Miles doesn't shock me in the slightest.
Yeah, it's the trust that he has. And if Miles misses that shot, Auburn fans would have been like, why did he play the most minutes? Why did we do that? But can't say anything now because He made the shot when it matters. And when it comes down to it, all of those other missed shots don't matter because it comes down to the final minutes of the game when your team is down, how many points, and just you make the shot that solidifies the win. So at the end of the day, that's why he won player of the game. That is what matters. Just making the ball in the basket in those crucial, crucial moments.
Yeah, and I know we have two quick player updates, but first I do want to say Tennessee, they are the real deal. I was questioning their their ability to go and play in the toughest games. We saw Florida. That one didn't go their way. They're coming off a loss against Vanderbilt. That was a game where they definitely could have won that basketball game in Nashville, but they really impressed me. I know it wasn't their best offensive game, and as we mentioned, same for Auburn. That was a two-way street. They both could not put the ball in the basket for the majority of the game. But Zakai Ziegler, what a leader he is for this ball club, and that's going to pay dividends for them going further in SEC play and into that dangerous month of March. And Chaz Lanier, there was a moment there in the second half, late in the second half. I know it was under the 10-minute mark where he got the dunk off a steal and then he hit the three, and you thought, oh boy, here they come. And luckily Auburn had an answer for it for the Auburn faithful tuning in right now. But Chaz Lanier, he's a good player, and you're going to see Tennessee do some damage, I think, across the league. But I wanted to say, and I know Bruce mentioned it and the other Auburn players mentioned it, this was a fight because Tennessee came to fight just as much as Auburn did last night.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to Jordan Gainey because he didn't even travel with the team to Auburn. He was experiencing flu-like symptoms. So he Rick Barnes said he didn't really practice all week. So they didn't even know how much time they were going to get out of him. And I just remember he had crucial points in the second half. He had a crucial three in the second half. And I know he fouled out, but still just he had crucial buckets again and just for not being 100% healthy either. So shout out to Lanier, Zakai Ziegler, Jordan Gainey, all those guys, because Tennessee, if we meet them again in the SEC tournament, I think it's going to be another battle like this, 100%.
Also, shout out to that Dasani water bottle that experienced death by Rick Barnes. That was kind of interesting. I saw that video. I posted on Twitter. If you want to go see it, check it out. But very frustrated with the call. Chuck the Dasani water. I laughed. I rated it like a 7.5 on the Gronk spike meter, but I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, remind me of Dan Hurley a little bit. That was kind of a shock.
Yeah, you're not kidding. No ref turned his back though. They were listening. All right. Well, now we have the two quick player updates. So last night in the second half, Auburn senior guard Chris Moore was fighting for a rebound, got the rebound, was fighting for it with a Tennessee player, and ended up running into his own teammate, Denver Jones. And it looked like, you can correct me on this, I think it looked like Chris Moore's head almost wedged into Denver Jones's like rib cage, and there wasn't enough space for his head to hit Denver Jones's rib cage. I think it's a neck injury, is what I'm assuming, based off how he walked off the floor holding his neck. It's a contusion, maybe is the word for it. We're hoping to hear more about Chris Moore's status coming up, but that was definitely a scary one. What did you see on that one that maybe I'm missing on that from my angle?
Yeah, no, I agree. It kind of just looked like two Auburn players collided. The refs reviewed it and kind of realized it was two Auburn players, not a Tennessee player. He comes out holding his neck. He even like walking off the court, like stopped for a minute. Like he didn't even like walk directly into the locker room. I don't know if he needed to catch his breath or he was in pain. Auburn hasn't released a statement, so we're not sure, but kind of just an update because he did leave the game at that point. But there was one point he had a crucial rebound, which got Auburn the ball. So just hopefully Chris Moore, we'll find out soon, but hopefully he is feeling better.
Yes, prayers to Chris Moore, certainly for a quick recovery and for answers on his end as well. And then the other player we're looking at is freshman guard Jakai Howard. He tweeted during halftime, which I was surprised to see on my feed when I was checking the halftime updates. And into the second half, there was a moment on defense where he let up a three-pointer and was subbed out, had a conversation with Bruce Pearl that looked like there was a certain level of intensity to that conversation, and Bruce and Jakai going back and forth. Ended up Jakai walking to the locker room after that moment, and at the next media timeout, three assistant coaches walked back there as well. They came back, but Jakai Howard never returned to the bench. Now, Bruce Pearl in his press conference post-game said he had a conversation with Jakai in the moment, he had a conversation with Jakai post-game, and that he will be fine. So that's what we know of that situation. I'm sure we probably won't hear more, but certainly something to keep an eye on moving forward with Ja'Kai Howard. This is the second thing that we've heard from the mill, I guess, around his ability to interact and with coaches and with teammates. So we're hoping he can have a clear mind moving forward. Hopefully, this is just a step in the right direction. Everybody has those, right? We talked about Dan Hurley. Like everybody has those competitor moments. So hopefully, this is something that can put Ja'Kai back on a positive road and can lead to success for him down the line.
I agree. There's always obstacles before things get better. He is a freshman, coming in as highly touted as he was and not seeing as much minutes as he thought, I think could be hard on anyone. So we don't really have that much information. Bruce Pearl said he will be fine. So we're going to take that as it is.
Yep.
He will be fine. So that's kind
Yeah.
of, we know as much as everyone else at this point, but yeah, we'll let you guys know if we hear more, but that's it at this point.
Yeah, we're gonna rock with Bruce on this one because we believe that man. But with the win now, Auburn has they're 6-0, 6-0, excuse me, in games decided by 5 points or less this season, and they have 7 wins over ranked opponents, which sets a brand new program record, setting the old one, which was 6 wins back in 2018. Now, I have a fun stat for you. I know this was the tournament where you became familiar with Auburn. The only other time Auburn defeated ranked opponents in 3 straight games came in the 2019 NCAA tournament when Auburn defeated number 17 Kansas, number 3 North Carolina, and number 7 Kentucky to get their Final Four berth in 2019. I thought that was a pretty sweet stat.
That is awesome. Bryce Brown, favorite Auburn basketball player of all time. But I have another crazy stat too. 4 of the last 6 games Auburn has played have been won in the last possession.
Oof.
Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina, and Texas. So that's insanity. Number 1 team in the country having to go down to the last possession with some of these teams that Tennessee and Georgia, but South Carolina and Texas, but Texas having a good one over Texas A&M. The SEC is just a gauntlet, but that one's crazy. And this is the second home top 10 match. So this one, Auburn and Tennessee, and it's the first since 1959 when number 9 Auburn beat number 8 Mississippi State. So this was a historic one in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, and we know Bruce used to be the head coach of Tennessee, and he's 8 wins in the last 11 against Tennessee. So he's running game in that record as well. Auburn moves to the only team that remains undefeated in the Southeastern Conference, the toughest conference in college basketball right now. Now, next for the Tigers, they are going to travel to Baton Rouge to take on the 12-7 LSU Tigers on Tuesday, January 29th at 6 p.m. Now, JoJo, this one, I was watching LSU yesterday against Alabama. They were in a close one, although they did fall. I think I learned LSU's got a level of toughness. They're not just that 1-5 team at the end of the conference. They're similar to every other team in this SEC where you play a bad game, you can very well lose.
Yeah, LSU's 14th in the SEC, but this also brings up a point for Auburn where they have 13 straight games after having one of the earliest bye weeks 2 times a week and coming up on 2 games on the road. So like you said, we're heading to LSU. I think it is on Wednesday, I believe.
Wednesday. Yep. Excuse me. Yes. Wednesday.
And then Ole Miss on Saturday, which is going to be a tough battle. But LSU, so Bama only beat them by 7 in Tuscaloosa. So that's something to look out for, but also a team that causes Nate Oates to bench Mark Sears, whether it was LSU's defense, whether it was Mark Sears not having a great night. Mark Sears is one of the best point guards in the SEC in college basketball. So having him be benched is definitely something to look out for. Just making the point that no team in the SEC should not be coveted, should not be overlooked. Like, oh, this is an easy win for Auburn. Yes, Auburn should win this game. They're the number 1 team in the country. LSU is 14th in the SEC, but Vandy has back-to-back ranked wins at home. It's home at LSU, so on the road. But also, there's a player that I want to shout out. He could change things around for LSU. He played in his first game against Alabama, Trey'Dez Green. Not only is he a basketball player, he had an insane block, I think, that is going viral against Alabama, but he is a 5-star tight end for LSU and Brian Kelly. He had 4 touchdowns this season. He's a freshman, so that's an athlete. A 5-star tight end for LSU, had 4 touchdowns. So played in his first game against Alabama. So his second game is going to be Auburn. So who knows? This guy could be lifting LSU to greatness. So that's why no team in the SEC should be overlooked.
Yeah, you talked about that LSU Alabama Mark Sears not seeing the floor in the second half. Well, LSU, they have a Sears of their own, a 5'11, 185-pound point guard from Daytona Beach that's averaging 14 and a half points per game, couple of rebounds, couple assists. That duo between he and Cam Carter, who is LSU's leading scorer, almost 18 a game, similar to Chaz Lanier kind of stats. Not as big as he is, but as big as he is on the stat sheet. Those two together make a dangerous combination. So Auburn's going to work this week to try to figure out a formula to stop those two guys. And if anybody can do it, it's Burgo and the gang, because they did a pretty good job against Tennessee. So hopefully they can work something up to help stop the LSU Tigers.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. 2 road SEC games, so it's going to be a gauntlet, right? 13 straight games, which means we're going to have 13 straight pods plus interviews in between. So we're going to be busy too, but it should be fun.
Yeah, definitely should be. And that game is on Wednesday. I messed that up the first time. Wednesday, January 29th, 6 p.m. on the SEC Network. Auburn should be probably the unanimous number one in this week's AP poll. So that you have to look forward to, as well as the games next week, LSU and Ole Miss. But for this one, Auburn beats number 6 Tennessee in a absolute thriller, 53-51, led by Johni Broome in his comeback game and Miles Kelly because he go boom in the game. How about that? Or a gang. That's how we do it.
I love it. Dylan Carble put on his story, he said Mike Breen would have said bang with that Miles Kelly 3. And, as a Knicks fan, I was like, I love that. So
he also shouted out the Or gang. So a strong gang guy connecting. Look at that. We're becoming a team after all.
I love it.
Well, this has been a great episode of Straight Out the Jungle. If you weren't able to catch our After Dark episodes with Jeff Goodman and Rob Doster this weekend from Auburn, Alabama, we will link both of those in the description of this video so you can tune in and tap in with the first ever students and team pod hosts to show up on the After Dark series. That was pretty fun.
That was awesome. And then Bruce Pearl again going on After Dark shouting us out. So just we are loving life. Auburn beating Tennessee, number 1 team in the country, getting to cover this coach, getting to cover this team. We're 2 students having fun. So we really can't complain.
Yeah, and we appreciate every opportunity and every word said in those podcasts about this pod, about us to putting in the work to try to cover this Auburn basketball team. And it doesn't feel like work when you're winning these games and having the amount of fun that we are. But no, Jeff Goodman, Rob Doster, Bruce Pearl, we appreciate all of the support, and we have no signs of slowing down. So we're going to keep it rolling here on Straight Out of the Jungle. JoJo, do you have anything else for this awesome episode besides the fact that the Eagles are going to the Super Bowl?
I just have to say, I am glad, this first time I'm saying I am glad that I am a Jets fan, which I never say. But if I was a Giants fan, seeing Saquon Barkley would absolutely crush me. Like, I don't know what's worse, being a Jets fan or a Giants fan, seeing Saquon Barkley take the Eagles to a Super Bowl. So I know a Jets player ain't taking a team to the Super Bowl right now. So just glad to be a Jets fan for once in my life.
Right. Yeah, there you go. I can't imagine that feeling either. As my words, walk on into the Super Bowl. That Chiefs-Bills game is going on right now, but I know Chaney's rocking with the Eagles. I'm rocking with the Eagles. You're a Jets fan. You like the color green, so I know you're rocking with the Eagles as well. So thank you. You got anything else for this episode of Straight Out of the Jungle after beating Tennessee?
I don't. I got on my phone and saw the Knicks absolutely dominate the Kings. So it was a good night Saturday night for JoJo and her basketball teams.
There we go. It was a great night for Auburn basketball, great night for the city of Auburn, because they got to experience an absolutely awesome environment. And I know now the line for the next game is going to be even longer.
Yeah, that's going to be crazy.
It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. As long as this team keeps winning, we're going to keep having an absolute blast. So make sure to like, subscribe, comment, check us out as we move along throughout SEC play, interview all the players, ex-players, former players, coaches, everybody that's part of this Auburn basketball program and family. It's going to be awesome. We can't wait for you guys to be along the ride with us. For this episode of Straight Out of the Jungle, my name is Vince Wolfram.
And I'm JoJo CAVANAGH.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.